We're setting foot on ground that nobody's ever walked on before. Every cut we take and we walk in there to bolt it, it's uncharted ground.
It's a story of volcanoes, a story of dinosaurs, it's a story of rivers and lakes and streams, but it's the story of where we live. This story is written not in words, but in the buttes and in the roads, streams, and rivers we live along.
When you're driving west on I-80 to go to Salt Lake City, off in the distance you can see the surface structures of these Trona operations. They're the tip of the iceberg, literally. Beneath these massive structures are small underground cities, completely functional.
You know, it's our number 2 as far as assessed valuation goes. They're a big ticket for Sweetwater County, not just Sweetwater County, but the entire state.
Our landscape was created by the geology, but it's not just our landscape. Geology has also impacted our culture and impacted our economy on a massive scale.
Our job is to get the Trona rock out of the mine so that our processing plants can separate the two and make sodium bicarbonate and sodium carbonate, which is baking soda and soda ash.
Soda ash is processed from Trona, and soda ash is used to make a wide variety of everyday products, everyday necessities: glass, paper products, soap, toothpaste, baking soda, textiles. It just goes on and on.
You need to have this just to have the life that we're accustomed to in a modern world. People need to have windows in their homes, they need to have windshields in their cars, they need to have fiberglass insulation to keep their homes warm. Now we're looking at the need to have that carbonate source to help with the manufacture of lithium batteries.
We have these mines, and now there's a thing where they're going to be producing another 9 million tons of soda ash. It's going to double the capacity of the Trona patch. And it's all going to be done with solution mining.
Thanks to the generosity of donors and matching support from the state of Wyoming, the Wyoming Public Television Production Endowment helps make programs like this possible.
It's like going into another world. Nothing's familiar. The smells are different. The dust is, more prevalent than you'd anticipate. Diesel equipment's going by and everybody has on hard hat and safety glasses, and nobody looked like they looked when they were outside. My wife's father worked his entire career underground. My grandfather worked his entire career underground. And a lot of the guys that I was underground with for that 7-year duration retired as miners.
Just little cups of ice cream. He wanted ice cream too.
Hey, let me get everybody's attention just for a minute, guys, before you head underground. Today's a hell of a day. There's a guy standing right over here named Mike Bird. Hired on out here June 13th, 1977. Damn. So today's Mike's last day out here. What'd you say, 46 years, 9 months, and 2 days?
Yeah, 17,077 days of employment, not work. I had some vacation in there.
This is a guy right here, gave his life to people that work in the mines. Wish this guy a happy retirement, but more importantly, tell him thanks for everything that you've ever done for the guy that puts on a cap lamp and goes underground every day.
Appreciate that.
Congratulations. Enjoy it. I'm gonna look for you in town.
Thank you, brother.
All right.
Okay, my turn.
I'll give Mike a chance here. Come over here.
Thanks, Bert. You're welcome. You're welcome. Hey, remember back when I started in conventional mining in '77? I was only going to work for, I was quitting next month for the first 3 years I was here. Honest to God, I was young and bold, but behind the scenes, I was scared. I did not feel comfortable having millions of tons of earth over my head. But the old timers at the time took care of me. Anyway, hang around, stick it out. This is a good place to work.
We're doing really well. We're doing better than most people in the country.
Such a significant percentage of the population
is employed in the same industry. It does form, I believe, sort of kinship, you might say.
We are sitting on top of a number of large miniature cities, essentially, underground.
Working together, you spend more time with these people than you do your own families at times, so you do develop a close relationship.
The work ethic and the lifestyle it gave me independence.
There's something about guys working in the conditions of underground. It's not like scary every minute, but you realize there doesn't take much of a hiccup to put yourself in a bind, all of you, and you be relying on each other. And there's just a camaraderie that develops and you get to know each other. Every week they'd start another class of new miners. And after a while, I mean, only 6 months, you felt like you were an old timer. The true old timers who had come there from coal mines, they were a breed apart. I spent 42 years in the industry, only 7 of which were underground. When I retired, they asked me what I wanted for my retirement party. Did I want to go out to dinner or whatever? I said, no, I want to have lunch with the guys in the mine warehouse. And I got to go down the mine and sit down with my old buddies. And my wife got to go underground that day, and because that was my identity. I continue to identify, and there's plenty of people who worked in the face who would say he's no miner. He was never up there shooting rock or running a miner or a shuttle car, but I just identify with that end of the business in a great way.
Come on, boys. Trinity graduated. Got good hearing yet. Yeah, that was good hearing. I didn't have your earphones.
History is full of ironies, and the Trona industry in southwest Wyoming is one of them. In 1938, a company that still exists under another name, Mountain Fuel, accidentally, while drilling for oil, discovered Trona deposits west of Green River, and a deal was negotiated between the Union Pacific and a West Virginia company called West Vaco. And it was West Vaco that sank the first shaft out west of Green River in what's called the Trona Patch in 1947. You already in Sweetwater County, especially in Rock Springs, had a mining DNA in the culture. So it just followed naturally to shift over to Trona. And over the years, up to the 70s, more and more operations were set up, and it became the immense industry that it is today.
How long have you been working in the mine?
12 and a half years now.
Okay. Are you from around here originally?
From Rock Springs, yes. I was born in Wheatland, and then I moved to Rock Springs, and I've been there for about 36 years.
When you're outside the mine, do the people that you hang out with and the people, your family and whatnot, know pretty much what you do and understand what it is you do down here?
Yes, because a long time ago we made a movie.
Reach for the stars. I see the light.
The next step is exciting and requires very special training. It is blasting and is accomplished by individuals with confidence and patience. This is called barring down, and it's done with a long bar.
And how about you? Do you feel at home doing this? Is this something you can see doing for a
This
long
is
time?
home.
Yeah?
I love it, especially every payday.
Okay.
I wanted to be a sculptor. Put all my eggs in that basket. I dropped out of classes. I went to work so I'd have some money. I was engaged to be married. And the irony was, it was the boom days in Rock Springs. You could get a job if you were willing to work. Just walk down the street and you could get a job. It wasn't hard to find jobs. It was just hard to find good jobs. So I started putting my name in at every industrial entity, all the Trona mines. And I remember before I went out to start work, calling my grandpa, who was my mother's father, who'd been a miner all his life. He'd gone from coal to Trona and then Trona to potash. And he cried. He told me, I don't want you to spend your life underground. I've done it. I don't want you to do it. I thought, well, Grandpa, got to have money. I got a bride, want to have family, got to have some benefits. I said, I think it'll be all right. I could hear his shoulder shrug over the phone. But that's how I found myself underground.
Getting close to the end of high school, I talked to my dad about direction I should take, and he suggested this because it's what he knew, and it was a good wage and good work.
In West Virginia, you know, it's pretty much everybody's either coal miners or related to the field.
My dad's dad was a coal miner, and Dad's brother was a coal miner. My grandpa was a coal miner on my mom's side, and that's the one I spent all the time with. His grandpa was a coal miner. And that's as far as I could get back on the history, so 5 generations.
You know, right out of high school, dead-end jobs were about all that was around town for someone my age until you get into the mining industry. So that was the route I took. Go make good money. I never really thought of it being a career when I was young, but as you start to have more and more years go by being there, and then as you start to develop a family, then you realize it's about more than just you. So you have to do the right things to provide for them.
Got 17 years of experience. I worked in coal for several years, and now I work in the Trona mines.
My dad worked underground, and my grandpa as well. On my dad's side, my grandpa on my mom's side worked up top in the plant for a while, and it was just kind of a family thing, you know.
So my dad was at one of the conventional mines when he was 19 and ended up retiring there. He ended up retiring as the mine maintenance superintendent. And then, so I got into it mostly because of him. Went to college at the University of Wyoming, got my degree, come back to Southwest Wyoming, got on at the Trona mines. My brother also works at one of the conventional Trona mines. So yeah, it's kind of, you could say, a family thing. So here we are in Southwest Wyoming, and this is a good view of the 4 conventional Trona mines you can see in front of us. Another one there, and to the far left above that butte. But this is the Trona patch right here. This is what it looks like.
Sweetwater County has a large amount of Trona. Generally speaking, it's considered the world capital of Trona because there's about 42 different beds beneath us. That's about 2,000 years of rate at which we are currently mining Trona. Trona at its core is what we would call a non-marine evaporite, specifically sodium bicarbonate dihydrate. Now, nobody outside of someone trying to currently pass their geology degree needs to really know every detail of what I just said. But about 50 million years, give or take, You're picturing a series of large lakes in southwest Wyoming, Colorado, and Utah, and this area is massive. One of these large lakes is Lake Gashit, 15,000 square miles. This giant lake surrounds what we would now call Rock Springs and covers most of southwest Wyoming, including Sweetwater County. Around the end of the dinosaurs, 65 million years ago to about 30 million years ago, the Rock Springs uplift occurred around what we would now call Rock Springs and White Mountain, uplifting these series of volcanoes. And as they did, that volcano brought up with it all of the rock around it, things like coal and other things that are older than the Trona that should be much deeper, now brought up to the surface. What that also did is it brought with it the volcanism. This lake is full of alkaline and various other minerals and elements that are gathering together. And over time, as that lake slowly faded out of existence, it left behind a form of evaporite. That form of evaporite is what we would now call Trona. It is a story of rivers, of lakes, of volcanoes, and it is a story of where we live. Trona isn't the only thing out there. It's just the one we have 2,000 years supply of that we've been using for 5,000 years. It's just the economically viable one. Every piece of American glass uses Western Wyoming Trona, and you can blame that on things like a lake with a giant volcano in the middle of it.
The lake evaporated, went away, dirt and stuff blew in on it, the land shifted, and that is what we go down through to get to where we work. That's stuff that had blowed in later, you know. I remember how lost I felt the first time I went in that mine. They're big, and it didn't feel like you would ever totally grip it all, you know, and figure out where you were. But it's funny how fast you do figure it out.
I've never had to hoist in like that before, and I'm not really a fan of heights, so that was different.
When you go to work in an underground mine, you have to have 40 hours of safety training that's dictated by the Mine Safety and Health Administration. You have a little bit of a heads up before you go, but really you get on there and you're just kind of looking out the opening where you can see the concrete shaft just going by and going by and going by, knowing that you're with every few seconds 10 feet further, 20 feet further, 100 feet further.
Once I got down in there and I seen how, everything was nice and neat, and you could stand up and walk around and not be hunched over and crawling around to work, and how good the conditions were. It wasn't a lot of water. Most of the mines I worked in were really wet, so you're wet and muddy, and every day you come out soaking wet.
We're kind of just at the beginning of our day shift here, and this morning, slash last night, we had our idle shift, which gives our maintenance crews an opportunity to work on the machines, work on the belts, and just kind of get everything ready to go and maintained for 2 production shifts.
Yeah, you do a pre-shift on all mobile equipment to make sure that it's fit for duty. Find something that is not in compliance, then you get that repaired. Always make sure that it's fit for duty.
Yeah, watch your head there.
In this mine's huge. This is the biggest mine I've ever worked in.
You're not driving for a minute or two, you're driving for 25 and 30 minutes to get to a destination. You're driving many miles underground. The closest deposit in size to this one is likely Central Turkey. It's a couple of square miles in size, where just the West Vaco mine lease footprint is currently 38 square miles, and we're one of several producers. So you look at the hundreds of square miles of leasable Trona in the Green River Basin, it is a world-class deposit.
So the way I figured out where I was going or where I was at was finding landmarks on my way in or my way out. Like there's a box here, or there's something painted on the rib here. However many crosscuts, there's a flag hanging on the rib here. That's how, when I first started here, that's how I figured out my directions and where I was going, was finding landmarks in the mine.
Hey, you guys! No, the film crew, you better
Everything you see here, regardless of the size, the weight, how big it is, came down in the same elevator that you came down in. You know, everything that comes in the mine is pretty well gonna stay in the mine for its useful life. If this breaks down, you don't ship it out to the dealership, you don't do that. Once it gets down here and assembled, that's where it's gonna stay. Even though we're 1,600 feet underground, we have to have a shop with lifting capability and ventilation and, you know, welding capability and Wi-Fi internet so we can do diagnostics on the newer equipment.
It's kind of hard to explain because I grew up hearing stories about the mine, but you don't really realize what it's like until you see it. And when I saw it, it was a completely different thing than I thought it would be, and I was really interested in it. It was cool. And as soon as I hired on, it really changed the relationship I had with my grandpa because it gave context to the stories that he had told, and it opened up an opportunity for him to tell more stories that I would understand because I knew the environment that he was in.
Yeah, if you guys want to go look at some equipment, we'll head in by. There you go. You guys up your plugs. There's just that bond between everybody that works down there. You know, everybody's watching what everybody else is doing, paying attention, because a guy working 20 feet away from you could be doing something unsafe that may impact you.
Your fellow employees, the crew that you're on, they watch out for you. They try to make you feel welcome and know what kinds of hazards to be looking out for and how to get through every day. And, you know, shift work was a new thing. You know, how do you adapt to that with your family and with sleeping and when to eat and how do you, all those kinds of things. And everybody's been through that.
I don't know what you call it, the brotherhood, the closeness, I mean, you come down here, you have fun, you do your job, and everybody goes home in one piece. That's what I tell these guys too. I told these guys the same thing when they started. I want to come down here, I want to have a good time, laugh, joke, get our job done, and go home the same way we came down here. And that's what we do. That's all I want. That's what I want to do.
There's some good people. They're all good people down here. It's like a family.
You work with these guys, you know what's going on in their life. That's part of being a supervisor, manager, just knowing your people, knowing what they're dealing with in their life. If they got their minds on something else, they're more likely to get hurt. So you got to keep them focused.
The work isn't dangerous. The work is hazardous. So there are hazards everywhere you go in the mine. So we have to mitigate those hazards.
We go into those cave-ins, we bar down a lot, a bunch of loose pieces and stuff, and it's not bad, it's fun, pretty safe. Go to bolt and bar down, and we get chunks that come off, big as vehicles and stuff sometimes, you know, so it's like, you can hear it popping and stuff all the time. We pop and you know it's gonna come down, so.
Morning. So here we are.
It's a main road, so it sucks. There's a lot of traffic. Got to get out of the way.
I was going to say, this is not a popular place to be bolting, for sure. Better let those guys through, huh?
Generally speaking, leave about a foot below us in the floor, and then we take out 9 to 10 feet, and then we leave 3 to 4 feet above us. Figuring out how to ensure that the roof or the top stays up above us. So once the miner has cut in there so far, nobody is allowed to walk underneath what we call unbolted top or unsupported top, unsupported roof.
I probably have the best skilled guys in the mine, and we take them into the worst places in the mine to fix it and make it better. That's what we do. That we're special projects. I had safety look up when we had our last recordable and they couldn't find any. So these guys are really, really careful about everything they do. And some of the places they do the cave-ins, they do all the sump work and all the mine repairs there. You can see they're rebolting this entire entry right now. So they're amazing guys.
My mom don't like it. So you know how moms are. My dad don't care. He's like, you go to work. Yeah, 'cause I worked at underground at Bridger too. Coal mine, so.
How's the Trona compared to?
It's like night and day. Different. Way different. It was always wet over there, colder.
Yeah.
Top's softer. Here it's warm. Top's better.
Mostly dry.
Mostly dry. There's some wet spots, but yeah, it's mostly dry.
I'm mostly from coal. I started at Mid-Continent Resources in 1989. I worked at a couple mines here, coal mines here in Rock Springs. I worked at Lion Coal. It was a 4-foot seam up there on the side of I-80. And then I got a job at 20 Mile in Oak Creek, Colorado by Steamboat. I worked there for 26 years. And then they were doing some downsizing on salary jobs, so I took a severance package and I came here.
And my wife always says, I wish we would have come out here when we were 18. And I said, I don't, because I wouldn't have the experiences I have. West Virginia and coal made me the person I am. My grandpa, he gave me his dinner bucket a couple years after I'd been in the mines, so he carried this old dinner pail. So yeah, put your food in there, put the lid on it, fill the bottom of it with water so you have something to drink. When I was growing up, coal was kind of a boom and bust thing, and it goes up and down with the market. And he got laid off towards the end of his career and tried to get onto another mine that just opened up when things started picking back up. Well, when he took his last x-ray, it showed he had severe black lung. So he was kind of unable to go forward working in the mines because nobody will hire somebody with black lung already because they have to go back and pay more for their black lung if you work for that company. So he retired, and I spent a lot of time with him. And I think that was the biggest impact when I was a child. I remember sitting around on the back porch listening to him and the guys he'd worked with tell stories about mining and stuff. So I'd already knew a bunch about it, you know, just being a kid. He was a big influence in my life, showed me how to garden and raise animals, and I'd never been prouder than the day he gave me his dinner bucket and passed that on to me.
I've been mining for 4.5 years. I got into mining, my dad was a miner for 34 years. I grew up with him working out at these mines, which is kind of what I do. I'm an underground mechanic. I train all of the new incoming mechanics into the mine. We bring them underground, we do a full tour, and then we start them from some of the most basic equipment, some of the most basic skills that they need to know how to be safe in the mine, and then we start moving them into the actual production mindset of running equipment and moving rock out of the mine.
This is my first time underground. Came from an oil and gas background. Trust the process.
Yeah, you got to
They've been doing it for ever. So.
They do it in coal mines too. On average, we do have quite a few oncoming guys that are new to mining.
I'm gonna retire here, and then hopefully my son can retire here for all the cuts and what they have planned. There's a lot of work still. So.
I just met with 7 new employees today, you know, helping them through their orientation and ask questions, and guys that haven't ever worked in an underground mine, so they'll have that first day just like each one of us did first time we ever, you know, got on that elevator in the shaft and rode down to the darkness.
And we look after our own, right? We are our brother's keeper, and that's what I've been taught since I started. And you look after the younger guys.
Underground mine mechanic. Been out here since November, so like 5 months.
we're running out of old timers because they're all retiring, and all we have is really young guys. And I guess before long, I'm going to be the old timer. They hired a bunch of guys in the 70s and 80s, and now all those guys are retiring. So there's a bunch of new jobs opening up, but you have very little experienced guys to pass on the wisdom now.
You talk about starting there that first day. I remember that. I got lucky. I got sent down on a training crew my first day underground, and I got hooked up with a guy named Mike Petrovich. And Mike was getting close to the end of his time. He spoke 7 different languages, and he was an old slab. He was kind of short, but had a chest about that big. And I remember he always had a clove of garlic in his mouth. He was always sucking on that garlic, and he come up, threw his arm around me one day, and he goes, "You need to pay attention." He said, "Because one of these days you're gonna be the old timer, and you're gonna have to tell them pups that are behind you, take care of them, teach them the right way to do it, or else so that they don't get hurt."
The old coal miner is the greatest generation, you call them. The first guy I worked with my first day in the mine, they say, "Okay, you work with him." We go down. He walks off the cage, he leaves me. My light went out. The guy walked away and left me. And the only reason I was able to find 3 shaft is I could see a dim light, a couple cross cuts down. I mean, these guys, they'd lost so many people during the war that until they got to know you, they didn't really care. Albert Zorko just walked away and left me.
Well, some of them were a little odd from all their days being in the coal mines, but cramped little places that they tell you stories about working at a seam that was less than 3 foot tall. So they did all their work on their back. They'd lay on their back to bolt the roof, and they tell you stories about that. But most of them were so jumpy that you had to be careful how you approach some of them. If you tap them on the shoulder, they might turn and swing at you. They might holler. They do all, of course, some of the newer ones still do that too.
Yeah. Coal, the ribs, or what you guys would call walls, I guess, are softer, so they'll actually blow out when they take pressure.
And my first day down there when they blasted was like, you're 1,600 feet underground and everything's shaking. It's traumatic. You're just like, oh my goodness. You just look at the roof. I mean, you're sitting back at the lunch ditch and they're all just having their cake and pie, and you're like, oh, it's just like, oh my gosh.
And when it goes off, the old guys would just put their hands over their food and wait till the dust stopped dropping.
We thought we were rich. We were making $7.50 an hour.
My take-home pay was about $240 a week, but a new Chevy cost me $5,100 too, so.
First paycheck I got, I went to a bar to celebrate, shooting pool. Guy told me that I couldn't make the 8-ball where it was standing. Bet him $50. He said, "You don't have $50. And I showed him my check. I made it, and I went straight next door from the lake. Well, it was the Lakeway then. Yeah. And there was a little appliance store and bought a vacuum. My kids didn't go without. We went on vacations, traveling. It gives you a lifestyle you couldn't have without it.
Yeah, it's a career at these Trona mines. If you choose to stay there and you could do the job and do your job safely, and you don't have to be a superstar, just show up and be consistent and steady. You'll be all right. If you're a dog, well, the crew kind of took care of the lazy guys, and they'd flat out tell you, "Man, kid, if you can't cut it, you can't stay. If you can't hang with us, we don't want you around." So you either stepped up or you stepped out.
The Trona industry in Sweetwater County employs a little over 2,300 people. That's 10% of the Sweetwater County workforce. Hundreds of millions of dollars in payroll going into people's pockets and people's accounts.
We came from a small town, maybe 8,000 people, so there was maybe one restaurant, and then you could get pizza from a gas station. That was all we had in our little town. You had to drive 20 miles either direction to get to a bigger town that had more restaurants and stuff. So it's a big change for us. It's nice to have the things, some of these things around town.
Well, I'll tell you what, living here in Sweetwater County, look what we got. It's all from, well, it was oil and gas. We had the big oil and gas thing, but it's been the soda ash mines. They have support. We've got rec centers, we've got swim pools, we've got best schools.
We just saw a lot more opportunities. Our daughter was only 8 when we moved here. So we saw a lot more opportunities here just, with the things that she got into gymnastics.
These kids go to school and they hand them a brand new MacBook computer to do their schoolwork on. I was studying out of books that my mom and dad was using. So it's just very good education system.
And so in 2022, Trona produced $22 million worth of severance tax revenue to the state of Wyoming. How that in turn transforms into the people's money is that it is generally saved and goes into what we refer to as the Permanent Mineral Trust Fund. And so those revenues go into that fund that we then invest. And so we have seen exponential growth in the fund to where it currently sits at about $12 billion. The revenues from the Permanent Mineral Trust Fund go into what we call our general fund, which is our primary operations for state government. And right now it's funding about 30% of state government from those investment earnings on the Permanent Mineral Trust Fund. It is a fundamental operation of state government, and we rely heavily on those severance taxes and that Permanent Mineral Trust Fund.
That's Genesis Alkali, the world's largest Trona mine. Next year, Genesis Alkali will celebrate its 75th anniversary.
Basically 2 production taxes with these industries, and so they'll pay a severance tax that goes to the state, and then they also pay a production tax that goes to the county, which is better known as the ad valorem tax. Collectively, those make up a large majority of the revenue, both locally and statewide.
She's headed to Las Vegas in December, trying to become Miss Rodeo America. Thank you to the friends and family of the Powder River.
The state also gets a significant amount through the sales tax, once the product has been processed. Obviously, some of that's going to trickle back to the cities, towns, and counties. Because of that Trona, we're able to remain, a top 5 contributor, which how fortunate we are to have an industry like that keeps us whole and keeps us a mega producer for the state coffers.
So Wyoming is fortunate compared to our neighbors to not have an income tax, and we don't have a corporate tax, and we have one of the lowest effective tax bases in the country. The Trona miners in Sweetwater County are contributing to the long-term financial stability of their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, and that work is just fundamental from those Trona companies right there in Sweetwater County.
On a night shift, I'll usually sleep until about 4 or so. I'll get up, take my boy to baseball practice, or if it's not baseball season, do something around the house. And then I'll leave the house around 6 and get to work around 6:30. And so we got to take 80 all the way there, so that can get dangerous in the wintertime.
This morning we drove to work in a snowstorm. Couldn't see barely 20 feet in front of the car, and semis flying past you everywhere. I was like, I'm taking the frontage road. I'm getting away from all these guys where I can take my time.
I think it was in the 70s. They actually had the interstate closed for 3 days. They took people out on a train.
October 8th, 1971.
Is that what it was? They took people out on a train to bring people out to work and to let those guys that were stuck out there go home.
Yeah. Well, it's because you can't shut that place down. No. You can't shut the plant down.
No.
Through the military, I'd been around, construction type things and large heavy equipment, earth moving type equipment, that type of stuff. But a facility like that to that scale with those types of operations, I related it to a small city. When I talked to, my family members who don't live around here, didn't know anything about it. It's like I go to work in it's a little city, and you ride a bus out to work with all these guys and everybody gets off, and you may not see them for the next 8 hours. So it was a little bit overwhelming. However, the people that work out there, your fellow employees, the crew that you're on, they watch out for you.
Have a good one. My day life here is focused
entirely on safety and building connection so we can co-create safety together. But outside of work, my passion is in photography. I love the human story. That is something I'm very passionate about. And my whole goal as a photographer is to show the real fabric of what makes us humans and what connects us all as a community. The goal today is we'll go meet some of the miners, we'll try and capture them, the unity in the community, the bond that is between these miners before they go underground. Fathers, sons, we have brothers going down to provide us with this amazing product we call soda ash.
When fear is the virtue. I've been here for a little over 10 years, and I work over in GR3 process plant. This is my dad.
Bore operator, been in the Trona mine for 30 years. This is my oldest son, Kevin.
I'm also a ore miner operator. I've been in the mine for 17 years.
Can you put your hands around them? Yeah, act like you love your dad. Come on now.
I will ride. I will ride. I will ride. I will ride.
I need a new Hawaiian shirt for Casual Fridays.
See you down the road. All right, you have a good day. Cheers. Cheers. A little bit of information about this.
We're miners, we're not movie stars.
Well, I was on the miner for 20 years, so it's still exciting. It's always something new.
No, I'm usually on the long wall. I'm just over here helping today. We're taking the bearing off of a bottom cob on the bore miner so we can repair it, get it back in service.
Perfect. Okay.
Nope.
That's hot. Oh, lift with your legs, not your back. Okay, let's get this cleaned up. Knock all that crap out of there, and we'll get this off of here.
Oh, I don't know, it's all the best part. You get to come underground in nice weather and work with some great people, and I love coming to work. Just coming off of Graves, I doubled into days, and then I got going on my 3 days off, so.
What do I have going on this weekend? I've got a 2-year-old boy, and just get him out and run him around, and I got to teach him how to drive a standard. That might be this weekend. He doesn't know how to drive a standard.
Yeah.
Yeah, on my list of things to do. We've got some standard equipment down here, and that's why we're teaching him. My lube truck is a 6-speed, so we're gonna go to my house and he can drive my old pickup around for a bit.
It gave me independence because that's when I quit surviving and started living. And after that, my boys never went without. They never had to be ashamed of their clothing or our car or never going on vacations. You know, they got to see the world because I took them. And I tell little Bert, you're so lucky you have me because you don't have to help me. So now my son worked at a coal mine, and he's worked at the rigs, and now he's working Trona. And I am so proud of him now, and I worried a lot of years. And that, oh, here he is, we're talking about you.
How are you?
This is Rebecca.
I'm Rebecca.
Bert, nice to meet you.
Thank you so much.
My name's Bert Lucero. I'm Susan's youngest son. I've been at Shishi Jam for 4 years now as a surface maintenance mechanic. I do tell my coworkers, I've told a bunch of them today that my mom was one of the first Trona miners, women underground, and they look at me and they're pretty impressed with it. She's always been a big influence to do better and get bigger and do better things. So here I am.
But this one here is Allie's. So yeah, she worked underground for 2 summers.
They gave opportunities for kids whose parents worked underground. So you could go for the summer and you basically shovel in the darkest depths over there, but you made really good money. And so I took that opportunity. Well, it was pretty cool because it gave me an opportunity to see what my dad did every day, like to support our family. So I wouldn't call it much of a miner. I shoveled for a couple summers. But.
You should see where they shovel though. It is our crusher mark, and it's not easy.
As far as the operation out here, I had no idea what it was about. I thought it was mostly just mining, but now having worked here for 15 years, I know that it's, it's chemical manufacturing as well.
Oftentimes, the public's perception of mining ends with just the extraction of the mineral. We are very fortunate to not only have the mine, but we also have the ability to process the product.
So this is our 2 shaft, which is a production shaft. You can see it's got a 10-ton ore skip dumping right now.
We get the rock from underground, bring it up, crush it, dissolve it, filter it, clarify it, and then essentially boil it so we can get a slurry out, and then centrifuge that, dry it, and then we result from the Trona rock into our fine soda ash powder. There's a lot of different industries that use soda ash. Customers that are FDA, food and feed grade, and then we also have our industrial customers, so glass manufacturing, detergents, primarily the main ones there.
I worked underground for about 6 years, been on the surface for about 8 in the powerhouse. It's a pretty good job. I wouldn't mind just sticking it out 40 years here and calling it a day. It goes by fast too, especially on shift work. 14 years goes by pretty quick. You wouldn't think it, Just seems like just yesterday we were working in the mine, moving belt power, So.
Getting those longwalls underground at FMC was a double-edged sword because room and pillar mining, the best you could probably get is about 55% extraction. Usually it was 50-50. And there were around 450 people underground when I started in 1977. And as you get that longwall, and it increased in size and it increased in size, there's about 185 hourly people out there now and 40-some salary people, and that longwall puts out as many tons as 450 people did in conventional and with the drum miners and the bore miners, and gets to be about an 80% extraction rate. So the lease actually lasts longer, because they're not leaving so much ore behind to hold the place up, because it collapses as it moves forward, so that pressure's taken off. When the longwalls really got up to what they needed. They got the torque they needed, the shears they needed, the motors they needed, and they got those huge supports. The one at Genesis is the longest underground longwall in the world that's not on coal. And it's made it easier for the Trona mines to compete with the Chinese. China makes most, if not all, of theirs synthetically, which is really takes a lot of energy, really nasty way to build it too. So the leases last longer, they get more ore they use for your people, but when we had the layoffs in the late 80s, I think we lost 700 Trona miners out here in the entire patch.
Go ahead, scoot on down a little closer. Go on.
Solution mining in the Trona industry is kind of a game changer, or definitely a game changer, because historically they send, employees underground in large numbers. So essentially there will be nobody underground. It's all going to be performed on the surface. Basically you inject water at the correct parameters underground. It goes into a cavern, develops the cavern, and is pumped back to the surface in a brine product, which the brine product is then pumped to the refinery and through another chemical process refined into natural soda ash. They do have the technology proven in Turkey. They've done it first. They did it before we started it here, solution mining wise. I actually think that it's beneficial when you have somebody that knows what they're doing to come here, purchase an operation or start an operation. It provides jobs to the community, provides income for the state and the county. And it's been proven that they know what they're doing.
Don't get too close to that drum.
I think the same thing could happen if they really get developed the way they want them to. It would be similar to what happened with the uranium industry around Jeffrey City. They used to do that with people and trucks and shovels. They got to using it with in situ mining, water mining. Jeffrey City became a ghost town. I mean, I'm afraid that could happen in this area, that, there's going to be a lot of people during construction, but if they get to mining that and it works out as well as they can, it's going to displace underground miners eventually. It'll be pumps and electronics.
I don't know how to do anything else. I've always done this, and I'm pretty proud of it.
Coal was huge in Rock Springs when coal was in demand. Now, coal is still in demand, obviously, in many sectors, but not to the degree and extent that it was in those days. Coal faded out. But that isn't going to happen here because of the immense quantities of Trona and the demand for Trona, the need for Trona.
I don't know what to say. Love you guys. Take care. I hope you all have a long and happy career. Hope that the underground mining sticks around. And Godspeed to all of you. Have a great day. And be careful. Be freaking careful. I never really got hurt in a mine. I was safer in the mine than I was at home. Got in car wrecks out in the wild, broke some ribs, broke an elbow, cracked my back. That was all off the job. So take care of yourselves. Take care of your families. And how about solidarity, huh?
This place is going to be a lot less colorful without you. Seabird, have a good one.
I don't know if I'll ever retire, to be honest with you, but I'd miss going down with these guys every day and talking with them, hearing about their day, and watching them work. There's something about the miner cutting, the bits hitting the face and the ore going into the car that I just love. I don't really have very many hobbies other than mining, so I'd probably miss it all, really.
Thanks to the generosity of donors and matching support from the state of Wyoming, the Wyoming Public Television Production Endowment helps make programs like this possible.